Hey, welcome everyone, and thanks for attending this late session. It's not going to be that long from here on. And today we're going to talk about analytical optimization technologies for lifting KPIs in games. If you're not familiar with the term KPIs, it's key performance indicators like monetization, virality, engagement, retention, etc. And I'm Alan Avedon, and with me here is Mr. Yaron Cohen, who is the co-founder and CEO of Bees and Pollen, and he'll be ready to answer any of your questions at the end. And I actually go back with optimization quite a long time, many years, to my days at Carnegie Mellon, where we have actually been solving optimization problems that required thousands of linear and nonlinear and partial differential equations. But please breathe easier. We're not going to be doing any of that here today. So what we are going to focus on is analytics, A/B testing, a priori segmentation, and clustering segmentations. These are the 4 techniques that are commonly used with, and we'll focus on each one of them. So basic analytics, I'll venture to guess that most of you are using some sort of analytics, and whether it's developed in-house or purchased as a service. And you have to gauge how well your game is doing and what it's doing, how much money you're making, and so forth. So you definitely have that. And many of you are using A/B testing to select the right options, to select them as defaults. And some of you are probably doing a priori segmentation and serving different options to different predefined segments. And very few, I suppose, are doing clustering segmentations to determine which of the relevant segments and which options to serve to those segments. That's a little more sophisticated, and I believe all of you are also doing or believe that a lot more can be extracted from data, and a lot of that data can be used to improve your performance, and that can be achieved by optimization if only it was easy and effective to implement. So let's begin. So you have a game, and you naturally have many of the standard game elements like payment page, promotions, tutorial, to name a few elements. And by the way, we'll use the term elements interchangeably with game events and vice versa. So each of these elements may have multiple options, or otherwise known as variants in some circles. So let's look to better understand the concept of optimization. Let's take a look at a typical payment page. So there are several items on this page that probably have more than one option possible. For example, the payment range. If you look closely on the left here, you'll see that this is a lower range. And if you look on the right side, you'll see a higher range. So the question is, which of these, would be set as the default option, you're obviously showing only one of them, will produce more revenue for you? And the answer is, we can say with some certainty that the one on the left, the low range, will probably produce more transactions, but with a lower average transaction, and the one on the right would produce more transactions, or I'm sorry, would produce less transactions, but with a higher average transaction. But which one of them produces more revenue? So hold on to that question, and we'll soon expand on the right answer. Also, note on that page also that there are many more items here that can be optimized or given more options. For example, the bonus that comes with the payment, or the default, the ready set default, which is all you have to do is just click on it and you're ready to go. Furthermore, other options can be the wording, the art, the call to action button, like that buy coins. There's so many things you can vary here. And here I'm showing 3 options of virtual good promotion page. And same question, which one of these will perform better? How do you know? Is it the one with any wording or without any wording, or the percent discount or the absolute discount? How about this one? This is a tutorial game flow kind of, as you can see, no tutorial, short tutorial, long tutorial. Which one of them will produce a lower abandon rate? Much the same. There are many other elements that can be optimized. If you take a look here, we talked about the first three, but sharing messages, virtual goods selection, payouts, if you have a casino game, for example, on that, would you rather have frequent small wins or infrequent large wins? Which one produces a better result? So it's pretty apparent that we need to start optimizing in order to select the right options that maximize our result. And is it just one option or is it more? These are the questions that we'll try to answer here. So let's begin. Let's go back to our four methods outlined at the beginning. We said analytics. Analytics is used for many purposes, but for the purpose of optimization, we'll say that it's a very manual process. And all you have to do is measure, display and analyze what you measured, and you go around and analyze that and make a change, and on you go with another loop. And you can go in circles many, many times and improve your results consequently. I think many of you do it intuitively. That's the normal method, that without any other technique. It's pretty basic stuff, but it can work. So let's get a tad more sophisticated and invoke a commonly used method called A/B testing, also known as split testing. Some people call it ABCDE testing. You know, I don't mind if you attach the entire alphabet to it. But basically, we're back here to the payment page to show how that works. So we've prepared two options. Again, we'll use the low and high range for simplicity. There are many other variations. We'll split the traffic and measure the results, compare them, select the better one, and deploy that as the default. Simple, right? Now, it's always good to listen to some experts. So this one, I dug up some stuff from Quora. Here's a few items here. I'm not sure if you can read them well, but in either case, I want to point out that it's very, very important to make sure when you do A/B testing to test long enough, make sure that your runs are long enough and with enough traffic, because these are statistical events. And then repeat the test often so that because your user base may be changing faster than you think. Bottom line on A/B testing is that the upside, it's conceptually simple, relatively easy to deploy, and can run and often achieve pretty good results. You sometimes read about amazing results, 80, 90% improvements. Usually it means that the initial choice was terrible, but that's what you can get. The downside is that at the end of the day, you've selected one of the options, and so only one option, meaning one size fits all, which you know is not true. And furthermore, that the results deteriorate over time. So you may, if you stick too long with the same option, you may be shooting yourself in the foot. You could have done better with the better options. So to indicate that, the difficulty level, I have a gauge out there. As you see, it's pretty low, kind of moderate level, low to moderate level. And also want you to think about the fact that sometimes in A/B testing, there is no clear winner. The results are almost the same for the two options, and it's hard to decide which of them fares better. But think of what that means. It means that some users prefer one option, some users prefer the other, but you just cannot select one that outwins the other. So now let's get even more sophisticated and start serving more than one option. Let's segment our user base using criteria that's based on either intuition, call it gut feeling, experience, you name it. And then let's serve each segment a different option. So typically, we call this a priori segmentation, a priori meaning ahead of time in Latin. And so what are the criteria that's often used? Geographic, countries, regions, demographics, psychographic, session. There's all sorts of criteria you can use to segment users. And now, assuming that your segmentation had merit, you can expect some lift. So if you look at the right results there, you can see that you served each group a separate option. And you, on top of what the A/B testing results would have been for that group, you get a lift. That's the added green section. You get a lift on that. And of course, your overall lift would be a weighted average of these two options, depending on the split of the traffic. So, bottom line on a priori segmentation. It can be effective and produce lift, especially if your segmentation had meaning vis-a-vis the options. And the downside is it's hard to fine-tune. And refining the segmentations for one element can actually break the rule for another element. There are a lot of internal complexities in that way, so you got to be really careful. But in terms of level of effort, I term that kind of in the middle of the yellow zone, as in medium, bordering heavy, but getting there. Now let's move forward and let's get a whole lot more sophisticated and do segmentation differently. We're not going to determine a priori anymore, and we'll, instead of selecting the segments intuitively, let's give the machine a chance to segment it by statistical analysis. So we'll run all sorts of regression engines. So first, we'll define the options, properly run the A/B tests associated with that, run the regression analysis on the results, and extract the correlations between the user attributes and the options. Now, of course, you'll need to repeat the process for every option for each element, so you can see how the amount of work starts getting increasingly heavy. And then when the user comes into your game, quickly determine which attribute bucket they fall into, and then serve them the appropriate option. All that has to be done in real time, of course. Now, the results of that can be expected to gain additional lift over a priori, provided you've done your tests correctly. And you can see that in the lighter shade of green up there. Now, the bottom line on clustering segmentation is that it produces the highest lift. And furthermore, new insights, these new regression analysis can tell you a whole lot more about your user base than you thought you knew. And the downside is that it's very tedious, very laborious. It produces enormous amounts of data. This is where you start meeting the concept of big data. Now, the process is sophisticated and possibly even endless, meaning it just goes on. As soon as you get to an end, you have to restart and redo. There's just so many parameters to optimize here. You definitely need dedicated staff or a company to do that for you. And you need to collect a lot of data, analyze it, run the statistical engines, and once you've found the right segments, you need to go back to the game, make the needed modifications, test it again to make sure it's all working. So in terms of effort, you're about to fly off the scale. So, but what if you could have the best of both worlds? What if you could have the highest lift possible without the huge pain that comes with it? And this is where I'd like to introduce you to a variant of clustering segmentation called dynamic best fit or predictive best fit, and which is an advanced implementation. And the images that I'm showing you there is basically meant to answer the questions, because your users are not clones, they're not the same. You need to serve them each a different option if you only knew how. So this is how predictive best fit works. It's an end-to-end implementation, meaning it's a whole package which makes the whole process automated. It automatically studies the preferences of the user base using an internal A/B testing engine and develops the correlations between user attributes and conversions on each specific option, and then serves those options in real time. So add to it a self-learning mechanism that updates the database as you go every day, because your user base is changing and new events occur in the game, and somebody wrote something nice about you and drove a lot of traffic to it, so that could make big changes. You want it to be dynamic. And now you have exactly what you want. All the gain with just a little bit of pain. And that's represented by the calm green location, yet with the best results possible. So, in fact, you might be wondering what are these attributes that we talk about? Where do they all come from? And here's a list. It's not even comprehensive. First of all, if it's a Facebook game, then there's a lot of attributes that come from Facebook. As you can see, friends, like, interest, 30 attributes just with basic permissions. With additional derived attributes, you can easily get to 50 meaningful ones. Behavioral attributes, those come from the app itself, from the game itself. You record a lot of information about every user. You probably want to incorporate all that data in the analysis. Session attributes, time of day, duration of play, and so forth. Geodemographic attributes, age, gender, a whole lot of that. Proprietary attributes, or could be novice, high bidder, that are specific to your game. Custom attributes those can be called also custom attributes in various times, or third-party attributes. You can buy attributes. You can learn more about specific areas, levels of income, and all that. Not many people do that. So, having said that, I'll bring this discussion to the end. And if you have any questions, somewhere here. If you have any questions, Yaron and I will be glad to answer them. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, guys are either all asleep or I did a good job. One of them would. Well, thanks very much then.